They always chose seats before I arrived. Not intentionally, not with choreography you could accuse anyone of, but with the quiet efficiency families develop over years. By the time I stepped into my mother's dining room, chairs were already claimed, conversations already layered into something that didn't require me. The corner seat was empty. It usually was. My brother spotted me first, raising a hand in that half-wave people use when they're acknowledging presence rather than greeting a person. I smiled, placed the dessert I'd brought on the counter, slid into the chair. My mother watched the movement with mild irritation, as if my lateness had inconvenienced an invisible schedule. Then, casually, like commenting on the weather, "You're the broke one anyway." The words landed softly, almost lazily. But she nudged my shoulder as she said it, guiding me fully into the corner space, a small physical correction that somehow made the label feel official. My brother laughed. Not cruelly. Reflexively, the way people laugh when something confirms an existing narrative. Across the table, my sister shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Her boss, invited this evening for reasons my mother still treated like a family achievement, continued sipping his wine, politely detached from the undercurrents he didn't yet understand. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, that old defensive impulse rising with rehearsed predictability. Explain, clarify, correct, but experience had taught me something about moments like this. Any protest would sound like confirmation. So I reached for my glass instead. Took a sip, let the silence absorb the remark the way it always did, by pretending it wasn't loaded. Conversation resumed, but subtly tilted. My brother leaned into stories about work. My mother asked my sister's boss questions with a brightness she rarely directed at me. Titles, revenue, expansion. Words that floated comfortably around the table, constructing an ecosystem I was presumed not to inhabit. I listened, nodding occasionally, performing the agreeable neutrality expected of someone assigned a lower orbit. Her boss eventually turned toward me, expression friendly, curious in the casual way successful people often are when encountering an undefined variable. "And what do you do?" A simple question. The table hesitated, almost imperceptibly. My mother answered before I could. "She's figuring things out." A smile. Tight, dismissive. I didn't correct her. Didn't elaborate. Just met his gaze. He nodded politely, but I saw the flicker of something. Not judgment, not quite, more like unresolved curiosity. Later, as plates were cleared and conversation loosened into that post-dinner lull, he reached for his phone. Again, nothing unusual. People check messages. Email kits. But then, "What was your last name again?" The room shifted. Tiny movements. Subtle stillness. I told him. He typed. It took seconds. No dramatic pause. No theatrical tension. Just the faint glow of a screen reflecting in his glasses. Then his eyebrows lifted. A small, involuntary reaction, the kind people can't rehearse. He looked at me differently. Not warmly. Not admiringly. Just recalibrating. "Oh," one syllable. But the air changed instantly. My brother's fork stopped mid-motion. My mother's smile froze, suspended in uncertainty. My sister stared at her napkin. Her boss glanced from the phone to my face, then back again, as if confirming alignment between digital information and physical reality. I didn't realize. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. No one asked what he'd seen. No one spoke at all. Because everyone understood the mechanism of the moment without explanation. Independent verification, external authority, a narrative no longer controlled within the family system. The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was dense. Heavy with the sudden collapse of a shared assumption. My brother shifted in his chair first. "You didn't tell us." His voice carried something unfamiliar, not accusation, not exactly, more like discomfort at discovering missing information. I shrugged lightly. There wasn't much to tell. Which was true, in a way that would have been impossible to explain. Success had arrived slowly, invisibly, built in spaces my family never asked about with genuine interest. Any announcement would have felt like self-defense, like an attempt to renegotiate a role they seemed comfortable assigning. My mother finally spoke, her tone carefully neutral. "Well?" A pause. "That's nice." Nice. The word sat between us, thin and inadequate. Her boss recovered smoothly, professional instincts overriding social awkwardness. "I've read your work. Not praise. Just fact." Recognition delivered without embellishment. And somehow that made it more destabilizing, because it removed any possibility of exaggeration. Across the table, my sister looked at me with something complex, surprise tangled with something softer, harder to name. My brother leaned back, arms crossing, recalculating years of casual commentary. No apologies came. I hadn't expected any. Families rarely revise history in real time. But something had undeniably shifted. Not affection, not warmth, just perception. Which, I'd learned, was often the deeper currency. The rest of the evening moved forward with cautious normalcy. Conversations restarted, but carefully, like drivers navigating unfamiliar road conditions. When I stood to leave, my mother hugged me a little too tightly, as if compensating for something she couldn't articulate. "You should visit more." Her voice carried a faint, uneasy gentleness. I smiled. "I will." Another truth shaped by ambiguity. Outside, the night air felt cool, grounding. Behind me, inside that house, the family continued talking, but I knew the geometry of the room had changed. Not dramatically. Not permanently. But enough. Enough that the corner seat would never feel quite the same again. And neither would I.